Rain slashed against the windshield like 1,000 tiny knives, blurring the world outside into a gray smudge. Peter Monroe sat alone in the back seat of his sleek black sedan, its tinted windows concealing him from the storm and from the lives that played out beyond the glass. The rhythmic beat of the wipers did little to soothe his restless mind. Through the downpour, he watched the children, a boy and a girl, no more than 9 or 10, huddled together on the sidewalk. The girl's hair clung to her forehead, plastered down by the rain, while the boy's thin jacket was soaked through. They held a small, battered toy car between them, its chipped red paint glinting under the flickering streetlight. Peter's heart twinged in a way he had not felt in years. He could almost see himself in them, though his own childhood had been nothing like this. His had been one of privilege and cold dinners in darkened halls, the scent of cigars and brandy clinging to the air. Yet beneath the surface, the loneliness had been the same. The twins shivered, exchanging a quiet word Peter could not hear. Their small hands clutched the toy as if it were the last piece of magic left in their world. A car splashed past, sending a wave of dirty water across the sidewalk. The girl flinched. The boy set his jaw in grim determination. Peter leaned forward, his breath fogging the window as he peered at them. Something, some old, dormant part of him, stirred in that moment. He had built his fortune on steel and numbers, on contracts and loopholes, never on moments like this. Yet here he was, watching 2 children fight the cold and the rain with nothing but hope and a broken toy. He shifted in his seat, the leather creaking under his weight, as a memory rose unbidden. A memory of betrayal, of a brother who had once stood beside him but who had turned that same cold steel against him. The bitterness was a familiar taste on his tongue. He clenched his fist, nails digging into his palm. The rain intensified, drumming on the roof like a war drum. The girl wiped her nose with the back of her hand and whispered something to the boy. Peter could almost hear her voice, a tremble of desperation that cut through the rain. A man in a long coat approached them, his steps slow, suspicious. Peter's eyes narrowed. He watched the man lean down, speak to the twins, and then shake his head. The twins' shoulders sagged. The man moved on. Peter exhaled a breath he had not realized he was holding. The weight in his chest deepened. He had made his choices, built his empire on decisions like that man's, to walk away, to close the door, to leave the weak behind. But something about the way the twins clung to that toy car, the way their eyes searched the night for mercy, sparked an unexpected ache inside him. His driver shifted, glancing at him in the rearview mirror. "Sir, should we go?" Peter did not answer right away. His eyes stayed locked on the twins, on the last spark of hope in the rain. "Not yet," he said, his voice low, measured. Outside, the rain fell harder. Peter's heart thundered with a promise he could not yet name. And as the toy car gleamed, under the streetlight a plan began to form, a plan that would change everything. Rain dripped from Lily's hair, tracing cold rivulets down her neck. She clutched the toy car as if it were a lifeline, its paint chipped and wheels worn, but still it gleamed with the memory of happier days. Logan stood beside her, his eyes darting between the passing strangers, each one a potential buyer. Each want another chance to save their mother. "Hold it up higher," he urged, his voice tight with urgency. Lily obeyed, raising the car as though offering it to the night itself. Most people hurried past, umbrellas tilting away from the children, as if they carried a sickness no one wanted to catch. But finally, a man in a worn brown coat slowed. His face was lined, eyes sunken. He paused, appraising the toy car with a mixture of pity and disinterest. "How much?" he asked, voice gruff. Lily's lips trembled. $5, she whispered. The man's eyebrows lifted in surprise, but then softened into a resigned sigh. "I can give you 2. Logan opened his mouth, but Lily's hand tightened on his sleeve. She nodded, her voice a small thread. "Okay." The man reached into his pocket, pulling out 2 crumpled bills and pressing them into Lily's shaking hand. He took the car, holding it like an afterthought, and continued on his way. Lily stared at the money, blinking against the tears that threatened to spill. Logan's voice cracked as he spoke. "That's not enough, Lily. Mom needs—" "No," she said, voice small. She closed her fingers around the bills. "It's something." From across the street, Peter Monroe watched through the rain-streaked window of his car. He leaned forward, every muscle tensed. The transaction felt like a performance, two children bartering away a memory to save a life. He wondered if they even knew what they were giving up. His driver shifted in his seat. "Sir?" Peter raised a hand, silencing him. His gaze remained locked on the twins. In the gray mist of the night, the children huddled close. Their whispered words reached Peter through the distortion of the rain, fragments carried on the wind. Hospital bills. Too much. Medicine. Mom's gonna die if we don't pay. Peter's breath caught in his throat. A name, Sarah, hovered on the edge of their conversation. A name that stirred a memory so old it felt like a ghost. Sarah. The name was a blade he had buried deep, one that still found a way to cut through his carefully constructed armor. He remembered her smile, her laugh, her betrayal. He remembered the last night he saw her, leaving with nothing but her silence and his brother's shadow in the hallway. The driver's voice cut through his thoughts. "Sir, we should go. It's late." Peter's jaw tightened. "Not yet," he said. He opened the door and stepped into the rain, the cold biting through his tailored suit. He crossed the street, his shoes splashing in the gathering puddles, and stopped a few feet from the children. They froze, eyes wide and fearful. "Excuse me," he said, his voice low but steady. "I saw what happened. You too. You're trying to help your mother, aren't you?" Logan's chin lifted defiantly. "We don't need your help." Peter's heart ached at the boy's resolve. "I think you do," he replied. He reached into his coat and pulled out a crisp $100 bill. He held it out to Lily, whose eyes widened with disbelief. "That's too much," she stammered. "It's not enough," Peter said, his voice soft. "Take it. For your mother." The girl's hand trembled as she reached for the bill, her breath catching in her throat. Logan watched, suspicion and hope warring in his eyes. Peter crouched down, meeting their gaze at eye level. "Tell me her name," he said. Lily's voice was barely a whisper. "Sarah." The name struck Peter like lightning. His heart pounded with a memory he could not yet name, but he knew this was no coincidence. "Sarah," he repeated, his voice laced with a sorrow he thought he had long buried. The rain fell harder, now washing away the last traces of the toy car from the street. Peter's mind whirled with the implications, his thoughts a tangled web of guilt and opportunity. He stood slowly, the $100 bill already crumpled in Lily's hand. "Use it wisely," he said. As he walked back to his car, the twins huddled together, eyes wide and uncertain. Peter's heart thundered with the knowledge that his past had just collided with his present, and deep inside, he knew their lives would never be the same. The rain had eased into a steady drizzle by the time Peter Monroe returned to the twins. They stood beneath the awning of a closed shop, the streetlight casting a pale glow over their tired faces. Lily's small hand clutched the crumpled $100 bill as if it might vanish at any moment. Logan watched Peter with narrowed eyes, his jaw set in stubborn defiance. Peter paused a moment before speaking, his breath clouding in the damp air. He chose his words carefully, each syllable weighed against the chasm that separated his world from theirs. "You both showed a lot of courage tonight," he said, his voice low and even. "Not many kids would stand in the rain to help their mother." Lily's gaze flicked to the ground. Logan's scowl deepened, his fists clenching at his sides. "What do you want from us?" the boy demanded, his voice trembling with the anger of someone too young to carry so much pain. Peter let out a slow sigh, his mind already spinning with the ghosts of his past. "I need your help," he said. "I know that sounds strange, but sometimes—" He hesitated, his throat tightening. With old guilt, sometimes the smallest hands can tip the scales of justice. Lily's eyes widened, confusion shadowing her features. Justice? She echoed. Peter nodded, his gaze distant. Your mother's name is Sarah, is it not? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Lily's lips parted in surprise. How do you— Because I knew her once, Peter said, his voice edged with memory. A long time ago, before everything fell apart. She was important to me. He paused, fighting to keep his voice steady. But she made choices that changed everything, choices that cost me more than I can explain. Logan bristled, stepping protectively in front of his sister. You are just trying to use us, he snapped. Peter's heart ached at the boy's fierceness. He crouched down so his eyes were level with theirs. Maybe I am, he admitted, the honesty biting deep. But I promise you this. What I ask of you will not put you in danger. All I need is a small favor, something only you can do. Lily's voice was a whisper. What is it? Peter hesitated, his thoughts a whirlpool of regret and resolve. He saw his brother's smirk, the betrayal in Sarah's eyes, the ruin that had followed. He saw the empire he had built on steel and secrets and the price it had extracted from his soul. Inside that toy car, Peter said, there was something Sarah left there, maybe without even knowing it. A clue, a key, something that can expose the truth that ruined her life, and mine. Logan's eyes widened. A key? But we sold it. Peter nodded, grimly. I know, but I can find it. And when I do, I will need you to help me finish what your mother started. Lily's eyes glistened with tears. But why us? Peter reached into his coat pocket and pulled out another $100 bill, pressing it into Lily's trembling hand. Because I cannot do it alone, he said. Because you deserve the truth too. He stood then, the rain soaking through his hair and darkening his coat. Think about it, he said softly. I will come back tomorrow, if you agree. Meet me here. Logan's eyes were hard as steel, but Lily's gaze was softer, torn between fear and a flicker of hope. Peter turned and walked back to his car, each step heavy with the weight of the past he had tried so hard to bury. His driver opened the door for him, eyes questioning, but Peter waved him off. Just drive, he muttered, sinking into the leather seat. As the car pulled away from the curb, Peter's thoughts drifted to Sarah, to the promises made and broken. He had never forgiven himself for what happened, and he knew that finding that toy car might be the only way to finally set things right. Outside, the twins huddled close, the rain falling in steady sheets. They watched the taillights fade into the night, unaware that their lives had already begun to unravel, one thread at a time. Sarah lay in the dim hospital room, the whir of the old ceiling fan mixing with the steady beep of the heart monitor. A damp rag rested on her forehead, beads of sweat gathering along her hairline. She pressed her eyes closed, forcing back tears that threatened to spill. In the quiet moments between the pain and the fever, memories flooded her mind. Memories of a time when her name was whispered with admiration and envy in the halls of power. When she walked arm in arm with Nathan Monroe, Peter's older brother, at lavish parties and behind velvet ropes. Nathan had been magnetic, his charm and influence stretching over everyone like a net. She had fallen under his spell, like so many before her, but she had loved him in a way that others had not. Or at least, she thought she had. She had been young, just 23, full of hope and ambition, certain that her life was finally beginning. But the affair had been a secret, hidden even from Peter, who at the time had looked up to his brother as a god. Nathan had promised her the world, promised her safety, loyalty, a future. And then, when she had discovered the first lie, a business deal built on blood money, a betrayal masked by that perfect smile, everything crumbled. Sarah had confronted him, trembling with fury, determined to hold him accountable. Nathan had only laughed, his eyes hard and cold. You think you can change this world, Sarah? He had sneered. You are just a girl with a pretty face and a naive heart. People like you are nothing. Those words had shattered her illusions, cutting deeper than any blade. When she had found out she was pregnant, twins, her world had shifted on its axis. She had fled, carrying with her the burden of Nathan's legacy, determined to protect her children from the shadows that stalked the Monroe name. But secrets, she had learned, do not die easily. She reached for the small framed photo on the nightstand, her hand trembling. Lily and Logan smiled up at her from behind cracked glass, their faces radiant with innocence she knew could not last. A knock at the door startled her. The nurse entered, her smile gentle but forced. "Sarah, are you feeling any better tonight?" Sarah mustered a nod. "A little." The nurse checked the monitors, adjusted the IV, and hesitated. "You have visitors, Sarah. 2 children. They are waiting outside. Should I send them in?" Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Her heart thundered. Lily and Logan. She had hoped they would stay home, safe from all of this, but they had always been stubborn, just like her. "Send them in," she whispered. A moment later, the twins appeared in the doorway, their eyes wide with worry. Lily clutched something in her hand, a crumpled $100 bill. "Mom," Lily said, voice shaking, "a man gave us this. He said he wants us to help him find something you left in the toy car." Sarah's eyes widened, fear slicing through her like a blade. She knew instantly who had given them the money. Peter. Her pulse quickened. Memories of Peter's quiet intensity, his unwavering loyalty to Nathan, and the pain that had come between them. All of it surged in a tide of regret. She reached for Lily's hand, her own trembling. "Listen to me, both of you," she said, voice urgent. "You cannot trust him. He will make you believe he wants to help, but he has his own reasons. His own ghosts." Logan's brows furrowed. "But Mom," Sarah's gaze hardened. "Promise me you will be careful. Promise me you will protect each other no matter what." Lily nodded, tears welling. "We promise." Sarah sank back against the pillow, her breath ragged. Outside the window, the rain began to fall once more, and deep. In her heart she knew the past was coming for them all. The rain had stopped by the time Peter returned to the street corner where Lily and Logan waited, their small faces shadowed by the glow of the flickering streetlight. Peter's heart pounded with a mixture of guilt and determination as he approached them, his footsteps heavy against the damp pavement. He stopped a few feet away, his voice low and steady. "Thank you for waiting." Logan's chin lifted defiantly. "We're only here because Mom said we had to be careful," he snapped. His eyes burned with suspicion. Peter nodded, his own memories of Sarah's fiery spirit playing in his mind. "Your mother is right, she always was." Lily's voice trembled. "What do you want from us? Why do you keep giving us money?" Peter took a breath, steadying himself. "Because you deserve to know the truth," he said, his tone edged with an emotion he could no longer hide. "You both have been lied to your entire lives." Logan frowned. "What are you talking about?" Peter's gaze fell to the ground, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Your father," he said, the words tasting of old regret. "The man your mother ran from, the one who hurt her. He was my brother." The words hung in the air like a blade. Lily's eyes widened, tears forming at the corners. Logan's hands clenched at his sides. "That's not true," Logan spat, his voice thick with disbelief. "You're lying. Mom would have told us." Peter shook his head slowly. "She tried to protect you, but the truth is Nathan Monroe, my brother, was your father, and he's the reason your mother has suffered all these years." Lily's voice cracked. "No, he couldn't. Mom wouldn't." Peter's voice hardened. "Nathan was a powerful man, but he was also cruel. He betrayed your mother just like he betrayed me. He built his empire on lies and manipulation. And now, he hides behind his money and influence while your mother lies in that hospital bed paying the price for his sins." Logan's breathing grew ragged, his face pale. "What do you want us to do?" Peter stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I need your help to expose him." to bring to light what he did to your mother and to me. He destroyed everything I loved, and now he's trying to bury the past just like he always does." Lily's tears spilled onto her cheeks. "But how can we help you? We're just kids." Peter reached into his coat and pulled out a small envelope. He held it out to Logan. Inside this envelope is a name, an address, and a key to a safe deposit box. Sarah once told me she hid something important, a recording, a document, something that proves everything. I believe it's connected to the toy car you sold. I need you to find it for me." Logan's hand hovered over the envelope, his eyes full of doubt. "Why can't you get it yourself?" Peter's gaze darkened, the memory of Nathan's threat still fresh in his mind. "Because if I go near it, Nathan's men will know." "But you two, no one will suspect you. You can walk right in, ask the right questions, and get what we need." Lily's voice quivered. "And then what? What happens to Mom?" Peter's eyes softened, pain evident in his features. "Then we take him down," he said, his voice steady. "Then your mother will finally be free of him. And you two can have the life she always wanted for you." Logan's jaw tightened. "And you?" Peter's expression hardened. "I've lived my life with regrets," he said. "This is my chance to set things right." The silence between them stretched, heavy with secrets and choices. Peter extended the envelope again. "Please," he whispered, "for your mother." Logan's hand closed around the envelope. Lily wiped her tears with trembling fingers. Peter straightened, a finality in his posture. "I'll be waiting," he said. "When you're ready." He turned and walked away, leaving them under the streetlight, their world forever changed by the hidden deal he had just struck. Peter sat in his study, the rain-soaked night pressing against the windows like a dark secret. A small desk lamp cast a pool of light across scattered papers and a black leather folder that held the envelope he had given to Logan. Every nerve in his body was taut, every breath measured as he replayed the conversation in his mind. Logan's defiance, Lily's tears. He knew they were his last chance. A soft knock at the door broke his reverie. His assistant, a slender man in a charcoal suit, entered holding a small, battered toy car. Its red paint was chipped and the wheels squeaked in protest as it turned in his hand. "Mr. Monroe," the assistant said, voice careful, "we retrieved this from the man who bought it off the street. It seems, well, it's not just a toy." Peter's heart gave a jolt. He reached out, fingers trembling slightly, and took the car. Its weight was oddly comforting. "Show me," he ordered, his voice a low growl. The assistant placed a small toolkit on the desk and, with practiced movements, pried open the bottom panel of the toy car. Inside, nestled in a makeshift compartment, was a tiny recording device, its surface worn but intact. Peter's breath caught. Sarah had always been clever enough to hide the truth in the last place anyone would look. He ran his thumb across the device, memories flooding back of whispered plans and half-finished promises. "Play it," he commanded. The assistant connected the device to a small speaker and pressed a button. A hiss of static filled the room before Sarah's voice emerged, soft but resolute. "If you are hearing this, it means I am gone, or worse. Nathan cannot be trusted. He launders money through the very charities he claims to protect. He uses violence to silence his enemies. And Peter, if you are listening, I am sorry. I never wanted you to find out this way." Peter's throat tightened, his hands trembling as he listened to her confession. Sarah's voice continued. "I found the documents, Peter. The bank transfers, the offshore accounts, it's all here. But I couldn't carry it alone. I hid it inside the toy car. I knew he would never think to look there. If anything happens to me, promise me you will protect the twins. Promise me you will finish what I started." The recording ended, leaving a silence that seemed to echo louder than any sound. Peter's mind reeled. The truth lay before him like a loaded gun. Money laundering, violence, betrayal, all hidden behind Nathan's perfect smile and powerful name. He stood slowly, his jaw set. "Get me everything we have on Nathan's charities," he ordered, his voice like ice. "I want every paper trail, every receipt. If Sarah was right, I will burn his entire empire to the ground." The assistant nodded, already backing out of the room, his face pale. Peter stared at the toy car, its chipped red paint a symbol of everything Sarah had tried to protect. He thought of Lily and Logan, their frightened eyes, their mother's warning. His heart ached with a guilt he had carried for too long. He knew the twins were out there, caught in the web of his family's sins. He had brought them into this, and now he would have to see it through. Outside, the rain had begun again, tapping at the window like a restless spirit. Peter's gaze hardened. Sarah's voice echoed in his mind. "Promise me you will protect the twins. Promise me you will finish what I started." He swore silently, his resolve steeled. As he turned to gather the documents, his phone buzzed on the desk. A message from his assistant. "Nathan's gala is tomorrow night." Peter's eyes narrowed. The perfect stage for a reckoning. The toy car sat on the desk, its secret revealed. Now, all that remained was the final move. Peter adjusted the cuffs of his shirt as he stepped out of the car and into the marble foyer of Nathan Monroe's mansion. The opulence of the place struck him like a slap. Towering columns, crystal chandeliers, polished floors reflecting the flicker of candlelight. It was a palace built on lies. Nathan stood at the far end of the hall, a brandy glass in hand, his posture relaxed and arrogant. He turned as Peter approached, his smile a practiced mask that hid the rot beneath. "Brother," Nathan drawled, his voice silky with feigned warmth. "To what do I owe this unexpected visit?" Peter's eyes were cold as steel. "Save it, Nathan. I know about the charities, the offshore accounts, the violence. Sarah's recording made sure of that." Nathan's expression did not falter, though his eyes narrowed. "Sarah," he repeated, the name rolling off his tongue like a challenge. "Always the bleeding heart. And you, always so eager to believe in her. She played us both, Peter." Peter's jaw tightened. "She risked everything to protect her children from you. She loved them. Something you could never understand." Nathan laughed, the sound echoing off the marble. "Protect them from me? Or from the truth? Do you really think Sarah was some innocent victim? She made her choices just like you did." Peter's voice dropped to a dangerous low. "Choices you forced her to make." Nathan's gaze hardened. "Be careful, Peter. You are in my house and you have no proof." Peter's lips curled into a cold smile. "That's where you are wrong. I have the recording. I have the documents. And I have your children." Nathan's brandy glass trembled slightly. "My children?" Peter took a step forward. "Lily and Logan. They deserve to know what kind of man their father really is." Nathan's face paled, a flicker of panic crossing his features before his mask returned. "You are bluffing." Peter shook his head. "I am done bluffing." Meanwhile, in the shadows near the grand staircase, Lily and Logan crouched, their small bodies hidden behind a velvet curtain. They had come searching for Peter, desperate to understand his plan, but what they heard made Lily's breath catch in her throat. "He is their father," Logan whispered, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Peter said Nathan is our father." Lily's heart hammered in her chest. "Then Peter has been using us all along," she breathed. "He only wants to hurt Nathan, and we are just pawns." Logan's jaw tightened. "But he said he wanted to help Mom." Lily shook her head, tears brimming. "Mom said not to trust him. And now, I don't know who to trust anymore." The siblings clung to each other, their minds spinning with confusion and betrayal. Every promise Peter had made now felt like another lie, another manipulation in a world that had never been kind to them. Back in the marble hall, Nathan's smirk had returned. "You have always been the weaker one, Peter," he sneered. "Always chasing ghosts and half-truths. Even now you think you are some hero. But in the end, you are nothing but a scared little boy playing with matches." Peter's hand trembled, with rage. I will expose you, he hissed. Everything you have done. Everything you are. Nathan took a slow sip of his brandy, eyes cold. Then you had better be ready to burn with me, brother. Peter turned on his heel, his coat flaring behind him as he stalked away. His heart pounded with adrenaline, his mind already on the next move. Outside, the twins watched from the shadows, their innocence slipping away with each word they overheard. As Peter disappeared into the night, Lily whispered, "What do we do now?" Logan's eyes hardened. "We find the truth ourselves," he said. "We can't trust anyone else." The mansion loomed behind them, a fortress of secrets and betrayal, its lights burning like watchful eyes. The night air was cold, carrying with it the scent of rain and unfinished business. The night air still held the weight of betrayal as Lily and Logan stumbled through the darkness, their small hands clasped together. The mansion's lights faded behind them, but its shadows lingered in their minds. The revelation that Nathan was their father and Peter's true motive burned like a fever. Neither could escape. They found themselves at the hospital entrance, hearts pounding as they slipped inside. The sterile smell and the steady beeping of monitors offered a strange comfort, as if the cold walls could shelter them from the chaos outside. Sarah lay in her bed, her skin pale, eyes rimmed with fatigue. She turned weakly as her children entered, their faces flushed with confusion and fear. "Mom," Lily whispered, her voice trembling, We heard Peter. He wants to use us, he wants to expose Nathan, but he's not doing it for us, is he?" Sarah's eyes clouded with pain, tears brimming. "Oh, my babies," she croaked, reaching for their hands. "Peter is fighting his own demons. He wants revenge. He wants Nathan to pay for what he did to me and to him. But that's not your fight. You should never have been dragged into this." Logan's voice was tight with emotion. "But what if he's right? What if this is the only way to stop Nathan from hurting us again?" Sarah's hand trembled. "You cannot trust Peter no matter what he says. He is too broken. He will use you like Nathan used me." Outside the hospital room, Peter paced the hallway like a caged animal. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text. From his assistant. Gala confirmed. "Cameras ready." He stared at the screen, his jaw set. Everything was in place. He knew Nathan would never admit his sins in private. The man was too cunning, too practiced in the art of deception. Only a public confrontation would bring the truth into the light, and Peter needed the twins to force Nathan's hand. He pushed open the door to Sarah's room, his shadow falling across the small bed. Lily and Logan flinched as he entered, his presence a storm that rattled the fragile calm. "Sarah," he began, his voice heavy, "I am sorry it has come to this." Sarah's gaze was fierce despite her frailty. "You are going to ruin them," she spat. "You are going to make them into pawns in your sick game." Peter's eyes hardened. "No," he said, voice low. "I am giving them the chance to finish what you started. Nathan has to answer for what he's done. He has to pay." Logan stood, his hands clenched. "At what cost, Peter? We're just kids. You want us to stand up there and what? Betray our own father?" Peter's jaw tightened. "Your father betrayed you long before I ever did," he said coldly. "He betrayed all of us. This is your chance to make him pay." Lily's voice was barely a whisper. "But what if it changes nothing? What if he wins again?" Peter stepped closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. "Then at least the world will know who he really is. He won't be able to hide behind his money anymore. People will see him for the monster he is." Sarah's voice cracked, tears spilling. "Peter, please," she pleaded. "Do not drag them into this. They have already suffered enough." Peter's expression softened for a moment, regret flickering across his features. "I wish there was another way," he said, almost to himself. "But this is the only way to end this." He turned to Logan and Lily, his eyes burning with determination. "Tomorrow night at the gala you will stand beside me. You will tell them the truth. and Nathan will fall. Logan's eyes met Lily's, uncertainty and resolve clashing in the space between them. Sarah's sobs filled the silence as Peter left the room, the door clicking shut behind him. The twins clung to their mother, torn between loyalty, survival, and the hope that justice might finally be served. Outside, the city lights flickered like dying stars, each one a promise and a lie. The gala hall glistened under a canopy of chandeliers, their crystal teardrops refracting light into 1,000 fractured rainbows. The high society crowd buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses, the air thick with perfume and pretense. Peter stood at the edge of the room, his eyes locked on the stage where Nathan prepared to address the crowd. Logan and Lily flanked Peter, their faces pale and eyes hollow. They wore clothes borrowed from Peter's assistant. Clothes too formal for children, the sleeves too long, the shoes too big. Lily's hands trembled as she clutched her brother's arm, the echoes of Sarah's sobs still fresh in her mind. Peter's hand rested on Logan's shoulder. "Remember," he whispered, "the truth is your weapon. No matter what he says, stand firm." Logan's jaw tightened. He nodded, but a shadow of doubt danced in his eyes. The lights dimmed. Nathan stepped onto the stage, his smile polished to a perfect lie. He raised a hand and the crowd hushed. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice smooth as silk. "Tonight, we gather to celebrate hope, charity, and the unbreakable bonds of family." Peter felt bile rise in his throat. He stepped forward, his presence cutting through the crowd like a blade. "Nathan Monroe," he called, his voice sharp, "before you peddle any more lies, tell them the truth." A hush fell, the room frozen in shock. Nathan's smile faltered. "Peter," he said, laughter forced, "this is hardly the time." Peter's eyes blazed. "Tell them about the money, the offshore accounts, the threats. Tell them how you destroyed Sarah's life and your own children's." Gasps rippled through the crowd. A reporter's camera flash popped like lightning, capturing Nathan's stunned face. Nathan's composure cracked. "You do not know what you are talking about." He spat, his mask slipping. Peter's voice was cold steel. "Your own children stand here tonight waiting for answers." Lily and Logan stepped forward, their small forms trembling under the scrutiny. Lily's eyes brimmed with tears as she whispered, "Is it true?" Nathan's face contorted, his charm gone. "They are lying," he snarled. "Sarah poisoned them against me." A murmur of disbelief spread through the room. Sarah's frail form appeared in the crowd, her hospital gown hidden beneath a borrowed coat. Her face was ashen, her eyes sunken. "Nathan," she cried, her voice breaking. Tell them what you did." Nathan's jaw tightened, his eyes darting to the cameras, to the crowd that once worshipped him. He faltered. Peter's hand shot out, gripping the microphone from the podium. "You used violence to silence your enemies. You laundered money through charities. And you betrayed your own blood." The room erupted in gasps, the tension so thick it choked the air. Nathan's face turned red, veins bulging in his neck. "Lies!" he roared, but his voice cracked under the weight of his own guilt. Sarah's knees buckled. Lily screamed as her mother collapsed, her body crumpling like a discarded doll. Logan caught her just before she hit the floor, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Mom!" Lily cried, her sobs ragged. Peter's heart twisted. He rushed forward, his hands trembling. "Sarah!" But Sarah's eyes, dull and glassy, met his. You promised to protect them," she whispered, her voice a thread. "Not to break them." Her head lolled to the side, her breath rattling. Logan's eyes blazed with a fury Peter had never seen. "You did this," he spat at Peter, his voice raw. "You promised to help, but all you did was tear us apart." Peter reached out, but Logan recoiled, his face a mask of betrayal. Nathan's laughter, bitter and hollow, echoed through the room. "Look at you, Peter, always so righteous. And now, look at the wreckage you've made." Peter's chest ached with the weight of 1,000 regrets. He had wanted justice, but he had unleashed a storm. The crowd stared in horror, the once celebratory night now a battlefield of broken promises. Peter turned away from the stage, his steps heavy. He knew the twins' lives would never be the same, and neither would his. Peter stood at the window of his penthouse staring out at the city skyline where the towers pierced the night like silent sentinels. The rain had returned, washing the streets clean, though he knew no amount of water could cleanse the guilt that clung to him. The gala was over, but its aftermath clung to his skin like smoke. Nathan had been arrested, his empire collapsing under the weight of exposed crimes. But victory tasted hollow. Peter had seen the twins' faces, Logan's fury, Lily's tears, and felt the fragile threads of trust snap. His phone buzzed on the glass table, its glow casting shadows across the polished marble. He ignored it. He could not bear to hear the words he knew were waiting. Sarah had died at the hospital an hour after the gala, her body too frail to survive the final blow of betrayal. He sank into the leather armchair, its softness a mockery of comfort. The room was cold, empty. A glass of untouched whiskey glistened on the table, the ice half melted. He stared at it, remembering Sarah's last words. You promised to protect them, not to break them. The promise he had broken. A knock came at the door, hesitant. He looked up, his eyes hollow. His assistant entered, holding a small envelope. Sir, he said softly. They took the twins into protective care. Peter closed his eyes, the pain lancing through him. Where will they go? He asked, his voice brittle. The assistant shifted. Somewhere safe, I hope. Away from this. Peter's hand trembled as he reached for the envelope. Inside was a copy of the evidence file. The toy car, now sealed in an evidence locker, marked with a case number. Its chipped red paint stared back at him like an accusation. He remembered the day he had first seen it, clutched in Lily's hands, her eyes wide with innocence. That innocence was gone now, shattered under the weight of secrets and betrayal. He rose, crossing to his desk where the city's lights blurred through rain-streaked glass. The empire he had built, the empire he had thought was built on strength, had crumbled under the simple weight of truth. Nathan's sins were laid bare, but at what cost? The cost of truth had been everything. The phone rang again, its shrill tone cutting through the silence. He let it ring. He could not face the voices anymore, the questions, the blame. He had played judge, jury, and executioner, and now he was left with the wreckage. The whiskey called to him, but he ignored it, afraid of the comfort it offered. Comfort was a lie. He thought of Lily and Logan, alone now, in the care of strangers. Would they ever forgive him? Would they even remember him as anything but the man who destroyed their family? He reached for the evidence file, his fingers brushing the photo of the toy car. In that small, broken object lay the whole story. A mother's desperate act to protect her children, a brother's final betrayal, and a man's thirst for revenge that had consumed them all. Outside, the rain fell harder, blurring the lights of the city. He pressed his forehead to the glass, the cold seeping into his bones. You wanted justice, Peter, he whispered to his reflection, and this is justice. But justice felt like ashes in his mouth. The assistant lingered in the doorway, his voice low. What now, sir? Peter did not turn. His voice was a broken thing. Now, he repeated. Now we live with it, he closed his eyes. The image of the toy car burned into his mind, a reminder of the price of truth and the innocence lost in the shadows of power. In the darkness, the city stretched on, indifferent and unyielding. Peter's reflection stared back at him. Older, worn, a man broken by the truth he had chased and the family he had destroyed. And the toy car, silent and small, sat in the evidence locker, a monument to the cost of justice no one could ever repay. If this story resonated with you, hit like, spread the word, and tell us where you're watching from.